But I don't have that amount of respect for luxury brands anymore. At this point, I find it hard to support the big luxury brands knowing how they operate. After watching Taylor Leather Steam, we know even a Birkin costs around $900 to $1,200 to make. The luxury industry is doing a fine job ruining itself, to be honest. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Jess. So on my last video, I got a lot of responses about talking about dupe bags, and I spoke about how I'm not really a huge fan of dupes myself, only because I think it's a little bit wrong that brands profit off other people's designs. And I'm not talking about dupes that are like the Coach backpack, because I actually like that Coach backpack that looks a bit like the Chanel backpack. Is this a Duma backpack? No, I can't remember, but it looks like a Chanel backpack. That to me is not a dupe because it is clearly a Coach bag. It has the C logo, it has the quilting. Or someone mentioned how the Prada duped the Roma Go. But that to me is also not technically a super dupe because it says Prada on it. I'm talking about dupes that are literally, you could mistake them for a designer brand. So, you know, for example, dupes that are copying Bottega bags because Bottega bags don't always have strong logo, or, you know, something like the Savette Pochette. That to me, I feel like it's a little bit wrong to dupe it because it's almost, from afar, you might think it is the Savette Pochette, and I think it is unfair to Savette, for example, who is a bit of a younger brand. I think they were established in around 2020 or so. These dupe companies are possibly taking some of their sales and profiting off their design. I don't necessarily think that's right. That being said, I also don't think it's right that companies these days, designer brands, charge us so much for these designer bags when they're not always good quality. And they don't always last a very long time either because of the quality of the leather and the materials, not to mention that they're not always made ethically as well. And I don't think that that's something we should settle for either. So I don't think that there's any wrong or right way, really, or there's not one straight answer, whether it's right to buy dupes or whether it's wrong. But I wanted to discuss your responses to my video today. And I'm sorry, guys, I am sick. I only got sick like literally last night. I think I'm coming down with the flu. So hopefully I can smash out this video, guys, because yeah, it was a lot. Thank you so much for commenting because I really loved reading all your opinions on this topic. So Galaxy says, I agree, they are profiting off someone else's design. I don't want to label myself, even if it's in my own mind, as a fake. Renee Hampton says, designers copy designers. What do you call that? Maybe we are at the point where we need to stop using the word dupe because designers are duping each other. And I think there is a good point to that because in fashion these days, it feels like everything's already been done, right? And we're just referencing things of the past, things from other brands. And I think there's a difference between being inspired by other designers, like for example, Louis Vuitton multi-pochette. You also see at many other brands, Prada. I don't know where it stemmed from. I think it might have started from Prada, then it went to Louis Vuitton. You see it at, you know, this multi-pochette bag. Where did that come from? Well, it could have come from like military or something. Yes. There's that, you know, brands copying each other. But I'm not talking about that, guys. I'm talking about dupes. Like, for example, just the Bottega pouch. Like, a random brand is copying that. And they're, from afar, like, they're not, the brand is not famous for their own designs. They're famous for duping other brands. I don't necessarily support that. That was my point. But yeah, there are definitely varying degrees of dupe. But I don't mean a dupe as in, like, buying a bag that is like their own design but looks a little bit like another design. Very hard to find original bags these days, but that I think that's a given with fashion. Things come around in cycles. Brands copy other brands, there's trends, all that. Car says, for dupes versus original design, I find that with things like the basic design, like the Marc Jacobs tote, for example, the line becomes so thin because I've seen Coach bags that look extremely similar. Similarly, the Dior book tote style is available from a bunch of brands and they are available from other luxury houses. So I don't feel all that miffed about dupes copying designs from fashion houses because they seem to be copying each other anyway. I think a tote bag, yeah, a tote bag is a classic design. I don't think Dior invented the tote bag, and Marc Jacobs definitely didn't either. There are like bags, like even a bowling bag. A lot of people, you know, I see at Burberry they have bowling bags, Gucci, and people always say, oh, that's ripping off a Louis Vuitton Speedy. But no, it's not, guys. It's just a bowling bag. And there's a difference between ripping off a design and just getting a classic silhouette. Yeah, I have no problem with brands just making their own version of like a flap bag with a chain. I'm not going to say that's a Chanel dupe because they've put their own twist on it. They put their own logo on it. They've changed the quilting. And that's something that you see a lot of Coach. They get a lot of classic silhouettes and they put their own signature on it, whether it's the type of quilting, the leather, the colors, the whatever logo they want to slap onto it. It's that. But that I think is fine. Poor me. Okay, much keener. Yes, I agree with all your points, Jess. I hate when people say that they disagree with replicas, but dupes are okay. How is stealing someone else's design okay? At least replicas credit the designer. I don't agree with replicas, by the way. Dupes should at least change the dimensions or hardware to distinguish their product from the original. That's what the other fashion houses do when they have the same shaped bag. The luxury industry is doing a fine job ruining itself, to be honest. Adriana says, I'm totally against fakes and there are no arguments that will ever change my mind. On the dupes, these also harm luxury brands. I would never buy a Bottega Veneta bag only because of the millions of dupes. Often they are poorly made too. Whenever I pass a fast fashion store, I see a dupe or highly inspired bag on display. Where is the line between an inspiration and a pure dupe that ruins the appeal of the original style? I also find it ridiculous how many contemporary brands get significantly inspired when designing their higher price tag products. Last but not least, I feel like most people wearing a dupe don't even realize they do so because they simply don't know or don't care about luxury brand collections. I think that's an excellent point as well. A lot of people don't know when they're wearing a dupe of something. I know when I started collecting bags, I had a lot of Samantha Thavasa bags, which is a Japanese brand, and a lot of them look like Birkin kind of Kelly styles, and I had no idea. And even when I worked at Armani Jeans, they had a lot of bags that I remember I worked with a girl, she goes, that totally looks like a Louis Vuitton bag, that totally looks like a Gucci bag. And I didn't know, and even brands like Guess and that sort of thing, they look inspired from other designer brands. Where do you draw the line? I would say, yeah, when it comes to Bottega, they're easier to do, or even Loewe. I've seen in like fast fashion stores like Seed and where else? I saw one at Suzanne's. I saw like a dupe of a Loewe Luna bag and I'm like, wow, it's crazy how they can get away with that. I even went to Forever Nude the other day and they had a dupe of the Come On bag from Fenty, although they did change the logo so it was quite obvious. But yeah, I think it does impact on the appeal of these designer brands bags as well, if they can be so easily duped. And particularly if you can find a dupe company that makes it just as good quality as the designer brand for a fraction of the cost, I can understand the appeal in that as well. I've seen so many Loro Piana loafers around, originals and copies, that to me are a sign of bad taste. So yes, I agree with you. And I think, as you guys have said, sometimes these dupes impact the appeal of the real thing because they are so duped and you can't really tell the difference between a dupe and the real thing. Amazon's BV drop earrings and necklace are spot on dupes. I personally don't buy dupes and never have, but the more I see luxury brands copying each other's designs, the more I hear about luxury brands not paying or caring for their workers, the less I care about brands as such. If they make bags for 50 to 60 euros and sell them for 5,000 to 6,000, that should be profit enough for their designs. I used to have the same opinion as you on dupes. Save up for the real thing or buy a more affordable bag that has its own design. But I don't have that amount of respect for luxury brands anymore. I will avoid dupes for the most part because it kind of looks goofy in my opinion, but I do have a semi-dupe of the one square Miu Miu bag that's popular right now. It's not a one-to-one dupe like ones you have showed and has some design elements that make it obviously different, but it's got the same bag, strap and handles and same color. I just like the style, which is fairly simple design, actually pretty similar to the plume, but didn't want to pay Miu Miu price. Like I said, I don't have that much respect for luxury brands these days. I'm kind of on the same page as you, Mothra. Mothra 13. I would buy something in that silhouette for sure that was not a designer brand. I think that's fine. And that makes sense, right, for that Miu Miu bag. Because that Miu Miu bag in itself is a very classic silhouette that a lot of other brands do as well. So yeah, I would totally, like for example, I really like the Coach Swing Tote. but I'm sure that silhouette has been done by many designer brands before. Sub Guy says, I don't think it's hurting the luxury brands. I also don't care if they're ripping off the original designs. Some of my wealthiest friends and myself who own real Hermes, Chanel, etc., we all started getting into high-end replicas. They still cost hundreds of thousands depending on where you get, and ours are handmade by women who were craftsmen at Hermes. At this point, I find it hard to support the big luxury brands knowing how they operate. After watching Taylor Leather Steam, we know even a Birkin costs around $900 to $1,200 to make. I feel like a fool for spending $8,500 15 years ago for my Birkin, $5,000 on a pre-loved Kelly, and $3,000 on my Evelyn. I still love Hermes, but I can't justify the price. As far as dupes, I feel like they usually aren't as good quality as a rep. I guess that's why dupes are usually a much lower price point. Interesting to hear your perspective, Sub Guy. Thank you for your comment. JP says, I totally against knockoffs and I don't buy dupes. If I had a bag that I found out was a dupe, I wouldn't use it. There will always be people who can't afford designer bags but love a certain style of bag. I say go ahead and buy what you like. It's not like someone else cheated you and sold you a fake bag. So let me know, guys, what you think of some of these comments. Apologies, I could not get through this video today, guys. I need to lie down. But thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it. Sorry for my face, and I'll talk to you guys on my next one. Bye!